So we're now moving on to the next section, so Unit 2F, and we're still writing equations, but now we're going to learn a different way, and that's going to be through point-slope form. All right, so now this is another equation or another formula that you can use to create your equation of a line. So first you'll learn, well, what the equation of a line in point-slope form is, and then you'll know how to use a point-slope form to write the equation of a line. Now, if you use this method, and I'm showing you this because some students in the past found this way to be easier, and if you use this method, that's fine, but ultimately you will have to convert this back into your slope intercept, which is y is equal to mx plus b. So you will ultimately end in your slope intercept form, but you can use your point slope formula to get to it. All right, and we're going to go over what exactly your equation is for an equation in point slope form, and then we'll go through a couple examples. All right, so a linear equation written in the form y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. So y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1 is in point slope form. So this is our formula, our form for point slope. And the line passes through the point. Remember, these subscripts represent an ordered pair that they pass through. So that means it's passing through a point that we can label x1, y1, and then it also has a slope of m. So we can solve for this very easily if we're given a point and the slope, right? So this one, I think, sometimes can be easier for students to use than just the y equals mx plus b, because it's flat out telling us that these are points that we're plugging into, and we should be able to recognize that by now by seeing the subscripts. And then it's also leaving these variables without any subscripts, this y and x. So it's telling us that we're not substituting anything in for them ever, right? That will always remain a y, this will always remain an x, and that the only ones that we're going to substitute in for will be the ones that have the subscripts, because they are representing the x and y's that the point passes through. All right, and we talked about that in detail when we went over our slopes, and we've been working on it, seeing those subscripts, so it shouldn't be anything new. So this one sometimes was a little bit easier for students to go ahead and plug into, because it was telling us which ones that we needed to plug into, and then the x and the y's were always going to remain there, and would always be part of our part of our answer at the end as well. All right, so let's go ahead and go through a couple problems with this. All right, so it says write in point slope form an equation of a line that passes through the points negative 6, 1 with a slope of 2, 3. So we need to write it in y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. All right, so it tells us our slope, so we don't have to solve for that. So we know that m is equal to 2/3. And then it says it passes through the points of negative 6, 1. And remember, this x sub 1 and y sub 1 represent the point that it passes through. So we can substitute those in for x sub 1 and y sub 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and substitute what we have. Well, we don't substitute anything in for the x and y's that do not have a subscript. So y minus, well, the point that it passes through for y was 1. So y minus 1 is equal to our slope, which is 2/3, times x, because it's not the subscript, we never substitute in for that one, minus x sub 1, which is negative 6. So the problem with this is you will have to go ahead and simplify. So we have y minus y, or y minus 1 times, or is equal to 2/3 times x, and minus a negative turns to plus, so x plus 6. All right, now, in your book for now, they just have you leave it like this, but I'm going to want you guys to rewrite this as your slope intercept form. So you are going to have to simplify. And remember, as we talked about before, these parentheses mean multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2/3 in. So now I have y minus 1 is equal to 2/3 x. Well, 2/3 times 6. Well, 6 times 2 gives me 12, and 12 divided by 3 gives me 4. Or you could have reduced right away, and you could have said, well, 2/3 times 6 over 1. Well, I know that 3 goes into 3 once and 3 goes into 6 twice. So then I'm left with 2 times 2, which is also equal to 4. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but we know that this is now going to be plus 4. And then my last step I need to do, because I need to get it in y is equal to mx plus b form. So I want y all by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and add over this 1 to both sides. And now I get y is equal to 2/3 x plus 5. All right, so that is what I'm looking for your final answer. I do want you writing these in slope-intercept form, but this is just another method and another way that you can do it to get your final answer. So now I'm going to go through this question with you using two different methods. So this one does tell you to flat out write in slope-intercept form. Remember, all of them you're going to have to. So we're going to solve by using the method that we learned in the last video of just solving it right into slope-intercept form of y equals mx plus b. So remember, in this one, we're going to have to solve for our m and our b. Well, we know our m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then here we have the 2 points. So I have the points 2, 4 and 5, negative 2 that it passes through. And we know that we are just going to have to label these. So x1, y1 and x2, y2. And I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Get m is equal to negative 2 minus 4 over top of 5 minus 2. So then m is equal to negative 6 over 3, or my slope is then equal to negative 2. So I went ahead and solved already and figured out that my equation is y is equal to negative 2x. And now I just need to solve for that b. And remember, we know it passes through these points. So it doesn't matter. We can pick any point that we want. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this 2 and 4 just because they're both positive. And I know that this can be substituted in for an x and in for a y. So I'm going to substitute them into my x and y since I know that it passed through them. So I then have 4 is equal to negative 2 times 2, because 4 we could substitute in for y, and 2 we could substitute in for x, and then plus b. And now I just need to go ahead and solve for that b. Well, now I get 4 is equal to negative 4 plus b. And then to isolate that b, I need to add 4 to both sides, and 8 is equal to b. So I get the final answer here, that y is equal to negative 2x plus 8. So that is one way that you can do this. Let me go ahead and circle this a little bit better for you. So that's one way that you can do this. All right, now the other way that we can do this is we can solve it by using our point slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. And remember, I don't care which way you go about doing this. It is completely up to you. All right, the same thing doesn't change. The first step that we would have to do, no matter which method we chose for this one, is we would have to have solved for this m. Since we already solved for it, I'm not going to go ahead and do it a second time, but we know that m is equal to negative 2. All right, so now I have y minus y sub 1 is equal to negative 2 times x minus x sub 1. And the reason why I do think that this point slope formula maybe is easier for some is because, like I said earlier, it's telling us that those are variables or points x and y that we're plugging into because we have those subscripts. And we've talked about that before. Right? And then we know that these ones, since they don't have any subscripts, that we don't substitute in for them, and it remains x and y, which then means that when we write our final answer, we'll have those x and y's already there for us. Right? So once again, we can pick any point that we want to. So since we picked 2 and 4 in the last one, I'm going to pick 5 and negative 2 for this one, just to show you that it will give us the exact same answer no matter what. So I'm going to represent those as x1, y1, but it's completely up to you of what you would want to do. So then we have y minus y sub 1, which is going to be negative 2. So minus negative 2 is equal to negative 2 times x minus x sub 1, which is 5. And as we talked about in the other one, this is going to have to simplify, so this turns to a plus. So y plus 2 is equal to negative 2 times x minus 5. Then we just need to go ahead and isolate and solve for that y. So I'm going to distribute this negative 2 into both. So now we get y plus 2 is equal to negative 2x plus 10. And then the last thing that we have to do is isolate that y, so I'll subtract 2 from both sides, and then I get y is equal to negative 2x plus 8. So you see, no matter which method we chose, we got the exact same answer as our equation. So that's why I want to show you this point slope formula, because if you find it easier for you to do it in this way because it gives you the points that you need to substitute in for, that's perfectly fine. It's just you're giving yourselves a few more steps maybe because you will have to simplify to get to your slope-intercept form anyway. All right, and that is it for this video.